Wouldn't it be nice if Adam Sandler didn't count the dates up all so wrong? And wouldn't it be nice to talk together in a format that goes way too long? You know it's time to rewind, baby, for 19 dates of this movie with Drew Barry. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Good morning, listeners. It's another beautiful day here on It's Time to Rewind. I'm your host, Bubbawheat, and joining me today is my guest, Chandra Boudreau. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
And this season we're discussing, what was the movie again?
50 First Dates.
Well, actually, it's 19 first dates, and we are going through them one date at a time. And this date is what I'm calling their sixth date, because it's their sixth interaction, and it could be considered the start of their third actual date. But it starts at 41 minutes and 56 seconds, with Lucy driving down the highway in a gorgeous establishing shot of Hawaii, and it ends at 43 minutes and 9 seconds, with Henry introducing himself to Lucy again. So before we jump into today's scene, I am curious, what's your background with this movie? Like, do you remember whenever you first saw it?
Yeah, so I am from New Hampshire, so I am legally required to have seen every Adam Sandler movie at least once. And my mom's actually a huge Adam Sandler fan, and my dad somehow knows him through a grapevine of people. So it's like one of those things that I've grown up with Adam Sandler in my household. Wedding Singer, I swear, was always on when I was a kid. And then when this one came out, it was like another Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Let's go. And yeah, so I did not watch this one as much as we watched Wedding Singer, but we still watch this one quite often. And I mean, I for all that Adam Sandler was on SNL and then all of his 90s movies, it was kind of a constant presence. I would not have been old enough to see this movie in the theaters or anything, but its presence in my life has always been there. And I just really enjoy, even like blended, just because I like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore's interactions with each other. I get such a kick out of the two of them together. I think they bounce off each other really well. And I think this is an interesting follow-up for them to Wedding Singer.
Yeah, I do think that it's interesting, and I think that they have a good chemistry. I think Drew Barrymore really is able to keep up with Adam Sandler's energy that not all of his leading women are able to do as much.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. So I like this one a lot. There are definitely moments of it that stand out in my head better than other moments where like Wedding Singer feels like a more like I could quote a lot of that movie, no problem. Where this one maybe not as much, but I definitely had a phase as a kid where I was listening to the soundtrack a lot and like I would get his song Forgetful Lucy in my head a lot. So like I definitely like it was something of my childhood.
Yeah, one thing that I was a little bit surprised, especially in, doing the little bit of research for today's date and tomorrow's date or next week's date, is that there's a lot of cover songs on this soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like this here scene doing Lips Like Sugar. And it almost sounds like the original, but it's like just enough that you're like, oh no, this is a cover.
Yeah, the original was Echo and the Bunnyman, I believe. At least that was the artist that came up first, just Googling the lyrics. And the version in this movie is a cover by Seal, which I feel like
Which
that's
is
an
wild.
interesting choice. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was hot at the time, like that tracks.
Yeah, I mean this was what about 6 or 7 years after Batman Forever, whenever he hit big with Kiss from a Rose.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's interesting, like the lyrics of the song at least the part, especially the part that we kind of hear that's playing in the background during this scene is she floats like a swan, grace on the water, lips like sugar. Just when you think you've caught her, she glides across the water. And just in the next stanza, which I don't think it plays during this scene, but I don't remember if it does or not. But she knows what she knows. I know what she's thinking. And I think that both of those are, I think they fit really well with this part of the movie, especially like she floats on like a swan, grace on the water, and it plays over this establishing shot where she is driving on this, this gorgeous Hawaiian highway, just right, and you get the reverse shot that shows the ocean in the background.
Yeah, the peacefulness of both the song and its messaging of like, it is beautiful, it is a moment, and then we're living in that moment as well on screen.
Yeah, and also like just when you think you've caught her, she glides across the water. It's like at this point in the movie, in the previous episode we talked about, that's when Marlon and Doug kind of put the kibosh on Henry and said, forbid him from seeing her at the Hukilau Cafe. And so that's why he's come up with this scheme to meet her on the side of the road.
Yeah. Yeah, the determination that Henry has in this whole movie, I haven't visited this movie in a while, but it was striking to watch like this scene and then kind of the next scene and just the kindness that's conveyed and like compassion, that the determination to just, if nothing else, be a friend and be a presence in her life. And doing it despite forbiddance from a father. Like, it is a nice sentiment.
Mm-hmm. And I one little thing that I noticed while watching this is Adam Sandler is wearing a T-shirt that's from DC Shoe Co. USA, and I feel like that this is one of the few, at least at this point in the movie, non-Hawaii related brands that he wears, because DC Shoes is based in California and it's known for like skater and snowboarder gear, which I don't know, that doesn't scream Adam Sandler or even Henry Roth to me.
No, probably not, but it seems adjacent to white culture in Hawaii. So it like is there's a logical connection in my brain, but like, yeah, it doesn't suit Adam Sandler other than he commonly dresses in skater clothes just because he likes wearing baggy things.
Yeah, I can see that. And of course, this gag that he uses to hook Lucy, the fake out of getting shocked by whenever he's trying to jump her the car, which he does jump her incorrectly, because you're supposed to on the live car, it's supposed to, I can't remember which one is supposed to have the ground on the frame. I know one of them it's supposed to be, positive to positive, negative to negative, and I think on the dead car it's supposed to be positive to positive and then negative to a metal piece of the frame to ground it.
Also, I more was trying to wrap my head around the fact he's in the middle of a road. His like batteries, yeah, they can just die, but like also not so like just.
Yeah, typically whenever you're driving, the alternator
charges.
Yeah, because the alternator kind of charges your battery to keep it from dying.
Yeah, it may be less efficient, but it's still not gonna just like plot out on you. And so that was just like the one thing I'm like, this is a very weak excuse. And he's also like betting on the fact that she is gonna pull over and she's not like jamming out to a song, no care in the world kind of thing. There's a lot riding on her actually pulling over here.
Although that comes into play um, in the day, after
Hmm.
your next day
Yeah.
with the penguin. Uh,
Oh yeah.
but but I do love this double fake out gag. He
Oh,
pretends like he's
absolutely.
getting shocked, and then Lucy freaks out because she says that her grandfather died while trying to jumpstart a car, and then she fakes him out.
Oh,
And
and
that
it's so classic, the two of them working together.
mhm. And it's
Yeah.
really just another moment that like it's the movie really showing you how compatible these two characters are, that they share the same sense of humor, that
Hmm.
they really get each other.
Yeah. Even like there's a little bit of teasing on both ends without it being malicious. Her little
Hmm.
tongue stick out gets me every time. Uh yeah, it is really a great moment of them seemingly being comfortable with each other despite this being a first interaction on
Yeah,
Lucy's side of things.
yeah, and I think again. I've talked about this in earlier episodes, but it's a part of the movie where it goes out of its way to make this romance feel realistic and believable and not creepy, because
Mm-hmm.
this whole situation could go creepy real quickly, real easily. And I
Oh yeah.
think that for the most part, this movie does not fall into that trap. This movie feels very wholesome and romantic and, fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Henry is never the mean party in this
Mm,
like other people question his motivations, but he is genuine the entire time.
yeah. And I wrote this before taking my notes for the next date that we're going to talk about, where it's very explicit or it's very clear in the next date. But do you think that he's catching her today on the way to the Hukilau Cafe or on the way home from the Hukilau?
I think it's on the way home based on the next scene kind of thing. Like taking what I know of the next date in mind
Hmm.
and direction, I do believe she's back on her way home.
Yeah, and I just thought of something like just based on like how bright it is. This
Hmm.
feels like midday or yeah, this feels like late morning rather
Yeah.
than early morning where she would be going to breakfast.
And I think it's also easier for him to stake out knowing, okay, she's usually here around that time. He may not know exactly like what time she leaves her house in the morning, so it'd be harder to catch her on her way to breakfast than her leisurely return from breakfast.
Yeah, because I believe most of the times before this he shows up at the Hukilau after her.
Yeah.
And then one last question I have about today's date. Do you think that this interaction leads to what you would consider an actual date between them after this? Like, do you think that this continues after this into something a little bit more than just this brief interaction?
I don't think so. I think it would be very odd if it did, unless he followed up with like, "Oh, for your kindness, can I take you out for like a cup of coffee or something like that?" Like, but it doesn't seem in his nature to do something like that, to break her routine knowing that she's gonna say no because of XYZ kind of thing. Like for him it's just having that moment of, oh, I get to give her a smile in her day, and like I still had a good interaction with her even if it didn't provide any depth or any real substance. It was still, I got to see her today.
Yeah, I think I would go the other way. I think that this does lead to at least a longer interaction. I think that this leads to like uh, an in-depth conversation that they at least, they might not go somewhere else. They might just hang out and talk here. But I do think that this leads to at least like a half an hour to an hour conversation, which would be something that I would count as an actual date for the numbering purposes that I'm counting as I'm going through this movie.
That's fair.
And then that's really all I have. This is only just
Yeah.
just over a minute long scene, so not a whole lot. But did you have anything else for this date?
I do not.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, this week, and a
Thank
couple more
you.
times. And, for anybody else who hasn't heard you before, why don't you take a moment and let them know where else you can be found online?
Sure. So I co-host a podcast called Wildcat Minute, where we break down the High School Musical movies 1 minute at a time. You can find my podcast by searching Amateur Nerds or Wildcat Minute on whatever podcatcher you listen to, or amateurnerds.podbean.com for the URL directly. But we're on Instagram and Tumblr, and just look for Amateur Nerds.
All right, and as always, I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me on pretty much all social media where I'm at Bubbawheat. And you can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on Spotify for podcasters, as well as any other podcatcher out there. I also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss the movies that we're talking about and episodes as they come out, as well as any other discussion about time loop movies in general. And until next time, I will see you again for breakfast next week.
I can't believe you fell for that!
Oh my God.